Hey folks, and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be talking about, not that you can see because I've rubbed off my copy, but that is The Sun and the Void by Gabriela Ramirez Cruz, and this was kindly sent to me as a proof copy, an art copy by Black Crow PR, so thank you very much to them for sending this my way. I didn't quite manage to get this finished and like read by July, which is when I was hoping to, which was when it released, but I finished it in like the late half of August, and I'm here to talk about that with you now. So I'm going to read Storygraph's description because I think it could probably do it better justice than I could. Set in a lush world inspired by the history and folklore of South America, The Sun and the Void is a sweeping epic fantasy of colonialism and country, ancient magic, and a young woman's quest for belonging. When Raina arrives at Aguila Manor, her heart stolen from her chest, she's on the verge of death, until her estranged grandmother, a dark sorceress in the Don's employ, intervenes. Indebted to a woman she never knew, and smitten with the upper caste daughter of the house, Celeste, Raina will do anything to earn and keep the family's favour, even the bidding of the ancient god who speaks to her from the manor's foundations. To save the woman she loves, Raina will have to defy the gods themselves and become something she never could have imagined. So this is actually a dual perspective story. We're following two main characters, Raina, who talks a lot about in the synopsis, but we're also following a girl called Eva, who is kind of on the other side of the world, I'd probably say, in this world. So they have these different kind of creatures, I guess you could say, and like different kind of mixtures of like human and, for example, the Valcros, who has horns and things like that, or humans, and Nosriels, who has like tails and pointed ears. And basically Eva is a half Valcro, and she is deemed basically less than in her home. Everyone said that this monster ravaged her mother and besotted her with some dark sorcery to make her pine over him until she took her own life. She's viewed very disdained in the home, and she basically wants a way out to kind of choose her future. They're trying to marry her off, and that's kind of how our stories cross over. And it's really interesting to see how we get to the point of these characters meeting, but there's more than that. We also follow Celeste, who is the character that Raina is in love with, but they're best friends, and there's a complex dynamic there. We also follow Javier, who is Celeste's uncle, but they're like the same sort of age pretty much, and he just seems like a vindictive, cruel character. And yeah, there's so many different characters you meet in this. They all serve such a deep purpose to the telling of the story. I read this originally as a buddy read with Sharon Joy Reads. I loved the depth of this tale. It was slow definitely for the first third or so, what with the world building, especially because it's set in a particular area of the world that I don't know very much about, so there's phrases and terminology that I wasn't as familiar with. We do have like glossaries and like an index of terms that is really helpful, but obviously not being something I'm familiar with, it doesn't stick with so well, so easy straight off the bat. So once I pushed through, I found it to be a worthwhile read for sure. The setting was lush, tense and atmospheric, all at the appropriate times. It just knew, or the author rather, just knew when to hit you with these tense moments, when to build up the tension, when to let it go, when to ease it off, when to explode. It was perfect, and I believe this is her debut as well. I appreciated all the contextual terminology actually being at the front of this. I find nothing more tedious and frustrating when you're desperately flicking through, trying not to spoil yourself, you know, with this big black cloud hanging over you, thinking, oh my god, I don't want to look at the words, but I also need to see where that index is so I can check the meaning of this word. So I appreciate it. It does have a glossary at the back, but it had, what do they call it? It has like a timeline, major families, like things like that at the front. That is really helpful for a quick reference whilst you're reading, which I did make use of. One of the themes in this that I found really well versed within this fantasy setting was the conversations of oppression, classism and mistreatment of other species due to being who they are. It's just so on point with how society, even now, still in the real world, is, and I thought it was perfectly displayed, like a mirror image within this fantasy setting, based in a complete different place. You know, absolutely loved the sapphic romance threaded throughout. There were a few different vines of that. The main one, I would say, which is between two characters that you see a lot of, especially in the first half of the book, it felt like there was a lot of manipulation there. You know, as well as in platonic relationships and familial relationships. It was so hard to see characters that I had grown quite fond of and cared for be manipulated emotionally in this way, when all they wanted really was a better life and to feel connections that they hadn't had, you know, really at all as they grew up. So yeah, it was really hurtful to see these characters go through things like this, just at the whims of other people's desires, really. The magic system in this felt super unique and really unusual to me personally. Definitely at times it went over my head, but I was excited to see the powers being mastered by various characters. They have sort of 4 main strands, and it's kind of within the ores that they mine within the mines. That's where they kind of get their beads of power from. There's some sort of incantations as well, sort of all mixed around this kind of ore magic. And then there's a darker strand called void magic, which we learn a little bit more. I think it's going to be more in play probably in the sequel, but we get a kind of snippets of it and hints of it, particularly with one character storyline as we go through the story, but I do think it's going to be more of the focus in a potential sequel. I do have a spoiler to talk about, but before I get to that, overall I just want to say I really enjoyed this book. I can see how it can set up nicely for a sequel, but equally I do feel like it would be quite complete itself as a standalone. I really thoroughly enjoyed this. It took me a long while to get through, but I enjoyed taking my time kind of poring over the text of this and getting my teeth into the world, meeting characters that would be quite unforgettable. So yeah, if you haven't read this one, definitely give it a go. I think they had a Luma crate have a pick of this. I think it might have been July's pick for a Luma crate maybe. Yeah, I'd recommend it for sure. So if you have read this, I'm going to quickly talk about a little spoiler. So yeah, so this is your time to dip out now if you haven't read this or you don't want spoilers. So this is similar, right, to another video that I just reviewed. I'm trying to be coy without naming names of another video that I just recently did, but basically this was the second book in a row where we had some sort of incestuous thing, and I was not here for that. I just no, I wasn't expecting that. I still don't get how, like, I guess Celeste and Raina would be cousins, right? And they did clarify that, you know, by the end, but what? Again, they were still entertaining the idea, or Raina was still entertaining the idea, like a little bit, if I remember correctly, that they, you know, they could just run away, or like it wouldn't be accepted, but you know, love. But I'm like, dude, you're cousins, like your first cousins as well. Like, not that any other cousin, like I know people still marry cousins like far down the line, but to know how close you are in like the blood, do you know what I mean? It's just peculiar to me. It's very unusual to me, and I was just baffled because I was like, how have I gravitated? I don't know if that says more about me. Oh, okay, don't quote me on that. How have I gravitated towards 2 books pretty much in a row that I've had like a plot twist, or like the main kind of twist or side twist be that they are related quite closely. I was just like, no, I don't want that, I don't want that. So it seems like that has been completely cut off and severed by the end of this book. We have Maya, who seems to be ready to, you know, have Raina realise how amazing she is and not be the second choice, and to let Raina know what you've got, I'm amazing, appreciate that. So I kind of hope she makes her grovel a little bit, because again, Raina was just like in and out. She was kind of indulging in Maya, and then whenever Celeste came up she kept dropping her like that, you know what I mean? I'm just gonna say it. I've literally just reviewed City of Bones, and Raina and Clary have some similar tendencies going on here across the bat, not gonna lie. Anyway, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall catch you in another video soon. Bye.
Yeah. Justin.